Leadership has always been about clarity, trust, and vision. But now, with AI reshaping how teams operate, the question is no longer just about efficiency. It's about how leaders hold space for both people and machines in decision making, in culture, and in innovation. Welcome back, listeners, to the AI Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are leaning into a conversation that feels both urgent and timeless. What does it mean to lead in an era where AI is not just a tool, but a teammate? To help us unpack this, we are joined by someone who doesn't just study leadership, he has lived it across industries, successes, and setbacks. Listeners, meet my guest, Rob Matzkin. He is an executive advisor, investor, and strategic growth expert who has guided CEOs and teams through some of the most complex transformations of our time. His story is also one of resilience, rising from childhood struggles with dyslexia to leading global ventures and building communities where leaders think bigger and act bolder. Rob, welcome to AI Biz, and it's an honor to have you here.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Rob, yeah, I mean, now everyone is beginning to talk about AI enabled chatbots, everything AI enabled. There's also a frenzy of AI replacing humans. But when you think about leading a team that's increasingly AI enabled, what do you see as the real role of a leader today? I mean, is it more like a technical oversight or is it still about human connection?
Well, I mean, it's obviously still about human connection, right? And the question you asked is very broad as well, in the sense that am I leading a people? Am I leading a team that's actually using AI, or am I leading basically a series of AI agents? And the reason I say that, there's a big distinction.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer the question that I'm leading my team is actually just enabled with AI, right?
Mhm.
And there's many different things and many different roles. And I think the biggest thing that I've been preaching is that the way we're managing people today is built on assembly line practices that came out of Henry Ford's plant in the early 1900s. And we've evolved since then, and whether that's Six Sigma or whatever it else is, but we're still monitoring people's time and making sure that they're trying to sit in a desk and see that they're doing a specific amount of time at work, right? Everybody wants their employees in their office. Why? Not because they really want to collaborate, but why? Because they want to know that they're getting value for their money and they're paying somebody and they're at work. Now, that doesn't mean that they're productive. That doesn't mean that they're even getting that. And,
Mm.
over the last few years, I've seen a lot of people basically hack their jobs. And what I mean by that, they're working an hour a day, saying they're working 10 hours a day, but they're getting all their work done that's expected of them in that hour because they're an AI enabled. Now, the big question is, should they tell their employer or not? Because if they tell their employer, are they going to benefit from any of the efficiencies that they've gained? No, they're actually going to be, um, two things could happen. One, they could lose their job because
Yeah.
now they could just take that, what they've done, and then just do it themselves, or they'll just get more work added to their plate. So that's the big crux of the matter. So what do we need to do as and I don't want to pontificate too long, but what do we need to do as leaders to
Mhm.
not have our employees manipulate us? And the biggest thing is we need to stop counting their time. We need to enable our people to become leaders of their own, really fiefdom. And I don't like the word fiefdom, maybe not, but leaders of their own world, in the sense that they are specifically accountable to specific outcomes, right? And a specific goal. We need to increase our social media presence. We need to increase our following. We need that following to be engaging and drive to leads or whatever they're working on. It's no longer, hey, I'm working on all this material. It's what is your output and how do we measure that to make sure you're reaching your targets? If you get that done in an hour, amazing. Go have fun the rest of the day. If it takes you 12 hours, well, maybe we need to have a better conversation and see how we can work together to make sure you have the right tools and resources to produce your outcomes, or we're too lofty. But what I'm really getting at is we need to get away from this time management concept to outcome management, which is a much harder place to lead from. But I think that's really the crux of everything of how to lead in an AI-enabled world, and it comes down to that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And I think the good part here is um, that listeners will, I think, resonate with the fact that we don't have to choose one or the other, but we do have to evolve that how we show up. So I think that's a really good point that you made, Rob. And also moving on, some argue that AI makes teams more efficient but less creative. There are some researchers as well that it's kind of restricting the brain's capability of thinking of different creative outputs, because people kind of defer to the algorithm. So, do you think AI actually enhances human potential or risks narrowing it?
Well, I'm worried about kids. I'm worried about people earlier in their career. Um, and they're certainly going to learn different, and they're certainly might not be as creative and using as much brain power. But you know, okay, that's a very academic problem. It is a very academic problem because what matters is, and I mean, I've been the amount of creativity I need to use to figure out ChatGPT 5 because it doesn't work as well as 4 and it drives me crazy. The last 2 weeks is a lot, right? So, I only kid a little bit, but, I just created a new pitch deck and really and using image creation and really getting it to do what I want, to getting the prompts to really put the output that I want, it takes a lot of creativity, but that's gonna diminish over time, right? And I'm trying to be cute. But in reality, when you're really using, I think, uh, any AI, whether it's Claude or GPT or whatever it is, or Gronk, and you're having a conversation with it and truly using it as your assistant, as your partner, the creativity that you put into in the chat prompts and into the conversations and what you put in, you get out. So it is definitely an academic conversation, but what matters as a business owner is what is the output that I'm getting? Because that's what I ultimately need.
Yes, I so much agree with that. And uh, I yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and if I could just interject, I think one of the biggest problems I think that AI is facing right now is this maelstrom or this hyper. There's so much being said about what AI means for society, what AI means for jobs, what AI means to the economy, and all these things. And I got caught up in it for years. And to think that zoomed out, it is a role as a human in society to think that. But in business, it's how could it help me today? Not that it's evil, not that it's this, but what could it do for me right now to support what I'm doing, to enhance what I'm doing, and to drive better productivity so I can get a lot more done in less time and produce better work. That's what we need to stay focused on, and how do we leverage it for that? And the societal things are gonna happen whether we like it or not, and whether they're gonna be good or bad. Um, and we could influence it in our personal time, but in our professional time, we need to drive and do the best we can with what we have available.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And I really like that framing because you know. if leaders don't make that distinction, then the human muscle or capability of questioning and challenging it can weaken over time. So that definitely makes sense. And Rob, one uh, you know kind of viewpoint or challenge, is trust. Like, let's say employees, they may feel threatened or undervalued or even fearful of AI in the workplace. um I mean, uh, whether we admit it or not, we have seen some big headlines where teams have been replaced, people have been replaced, whether it's the most basic, teams or the middle management. As a leader, how do you address that emotional undercurrent, without dismissing it?
Yeah. So I've worried about, my profession and what I do and the existential crisis that it is and that everybody wants us to be all hyperbolic about. And whether the singularity is coming or AI is going to replace us all, I don't know, right? We could get all hyperbolic about it, but what I do know is this. We're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, and the prior three industrial revolutions, we had exponential economic output for the next 25 years as each one of those came to fruition. Now, this one is happening faster, so maybe it's 15 years instead of 25. I don't know. Maybe it lasts even longer. But I'm standing in the fact that, as an employee, you should be better at your job. We don't need to replace you. We need to empower you because if we're able to increase your output by that much, then we should be growing by that much. And there's always should be a place for you there. Now, a lot of the big businesses, they are cutting jobs. What are they cutting? They're cutting the bottom. So they're cutting the bottom 10%
Yep.
as a rule, right? And they're trying to skinny up their bottom line. Now, everybody wants to get caught up in the Fortune 2000 headlines, the stuff that's being invested in, and they're not accountable to anything but increasing their stock price, love it or hate it. So, as a leader outside of the Fortune 2000 companies, it's perform, keep performing, and outperforming what you're doing last year, and be a leader of your own KPIs, and I'll always have a job for you, right? Because we should be if you're really delivering on your KPIs that the company needs, we should be growing, and we should be growing at the pace that not only justifies your salary, but justifies the cost to the company, and you're gonna have an outsized output to the company that we can't replace, right? So your job, if you're worried, is how do you just keep increasing your value, and instead of looking at your job as a matter of a factor of you putting in the time, put in an output, put in an output, and your job will be secure because you won't be replaceable.
Hmm. That's really hard hitting to some extent. Yeah.
I mean, it's blood, right? It's blood, right?
Yeah.
The days of putting in time and putting in your time, and the days of supervision and bosses checking the box that you put in your time is over. If you truly want job security, be so valuable that you can't be replaced. And it's hard. It's going to be harder. It's going to be stressful. You're going to have to put more in. But that's the best way to keep job security. And same thing for me, right? I run a consulting firm. We do fundraise. We help startups with fundraising. We help startups with go to market. You can go to GPT and ask it questions around that now. I better be better. I better deliver on what my say always and have real outputs. Otherwise, I'll be replaced.
That is right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's use that fear as a motivation.
But don't use it as fear. It shouldn't be fear. It's not
Mm.
fear. It should be just we're just in a different reality. And it's not don't the if you're fearful, you're gonna be constrained. Talk about creativity constrainment. Fear is one of them. But just play to the bottom line of, "I wanna make an impact in this company and take it on."
Yeah,
That's all.
that is,
So,
yes, that's so right. Wonderful, wonderful. And Rob, if our listeners they would like to connect with you, what would be the easiest way?
the easiest way is my email or website. It's robmatzkin@gmail.com, Rob Matzkin at LinkedIn, robmatzkin.com. Um, yeah, happy to have this conversation with you. Happy to support you in your business growth, and implement leadership principles that are going to stand the test of time for what's coming in this fourth industrial revolution.
Mm, superb. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. And Rob, I believe this has been such an insightful conversation, um, because what I can take away, and I hope our listeners can as well, that is leading with an AI enabled team is not just about tech, it's about courage. Um, and uh, courage to set boundaries, to build trust, and to keep the human heart of leadership alive, even as more and more machines take on more of the work in this fourth industrial revolution. So, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And to all the listeners out there, I'll just conclude this conversation with a quick question for all of you. How are you choosing to show up as a leader in this new era? Are you outsourcing responsibility or are you evolving alongside the tools at your disposal? Thank you to everyone for tuning into AI Biz. And until next time, keep questioning, keep experimenting, and above all, keep leading with intention. Thank you.